Imagine for a moment that every screen in your life simply vanished. No glowing rectangles demanding your attention. No infinite scroll. No algorithm whispering what you should watch next. Just silence, in the slow crow of time stretching out ahead of you with absolutely nothing to fill each. Now imagine that silence doesn't end after an hour a day. It stretches across years, decades, entire lifetimes. This was the reality for nearly every human who ever lived. For 300 years, our species existed without a single symphony, without a single novel, without a single moving image. No Netflix, no Spotify, no books, no board games, no sports to watch. Nothing but each other in the empty spaces between survival. So it is the question that changes everything. What did they actually do? The answer is far stranger and more profound than you might expect. Because when you strip away every distraction, every manufactured form of entertainment, something remarkable happens to the human mind. Something that built civilizations, invented gods, and created everything you now consume to escape the very thing that made it all possible. But first, we need to confront a deeply uncomfortable possibility. Did boredom even exist back then? For decades, anthropologists operated under a simple assumption. Our ancestors were too busy staying alive to experience anything resembling modern boredom. Every moment was consumed by the relentless demands of survival, hunting, foraging, building shelter, avoiding predators. There simply wasn't the time for the existential dread of a Sunday afternoon with nothing to do. That assumption, it turns out, was spectacularly wrong. In 1966, anthropologist Marshall Salis published research that fundamentally altered our understanding of prehistoric life. He had spent years living among the Kungi people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still practicing a traditional hunter-gatherer lifestyle. What he discovered challenged everything. They worked, on average, about 15 to 20 hours per week. Not per day, per week. The remaining hours were spent resting, talking, sitting, doing nothing in particular. Salis called them the original affluent society. Not because they had possessions, but because they had something far more valuable. Time. More free time than most modern humans will ever experience. So the question isn't whether ancient humans got bored. The question is what happened when they did. Let us start with the simplest answer, because it is also the most revealing. They played. This sounds too obvious to be meaningful. But in 2010, archaeologist Francisco de Orico and his team made a discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about prehistoric cognition. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, they found a collection of marine shells, 75,000 years old, that had been deliberately perforated and coated in hidioco. These weren't tools, they weren't weapons, they weren't food remains, they were beads. Someone had sat those 75,000 years ago with nothing better to do imagine themselves jewelry. That is the oldest known example of symbolic behavior in human history. Each started with boredom. But it is what makes this truly extraordinary. Making those beads would have taken hours, possibly days. drilling through a shell with a stone tool, without electricity, without metal, without the kind of patience built by a lifetime of cultivated entertainment. That is a very long afternoon, and they did each anyway, because the alternative was staring at the wall of a cave. Necessity dignité inventa artigo. Boredom did. The same pattern emerges when we examine the origins of music. In 2008, researchers excavating a cave in southern Germany unearthed a flute carved from the bone of a vulture. Each had 5 precisely placed finger holes. Each was 40,000 years old. "40,000 years ago, before agriculture, before cities, before any civilization we would recognize, someone sat down and invented music, not because they had to, because they had a free afternoon in a bird bone." Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, who has spent decades studying the neurological origins of music, argues that musical ability is actually older than language. Our brains were wired for rhythm and melody before we could form complex sentences. Because rhythm is pattern recognition, and pattern recognition kept us alive. The brain that could predict the next beat could also predict the movement of prey, the approach of a storm, the subtle shift in a predator's posture. Music isn't a luxury. It is a byproduct of the brain's most fundamental survival mechanism. But boredom didn't just invent art in music. It invented something far more powerful. It invented imagination. Consider this carefully. You cannot experience boredom without a concept of chimmy. To be bored, you must understand that this moment is lasting too long, that something else could be happening, that the future exists, each could be better than now. Boredom is, in a very real sense, the first sign that a brain has developed the ability to imagine things that don't yet exist. Animals don't get bored the way humans do. A dog waiting for its owner isn't bored. It is simply waiting. Each has no concept of what else each could be doing. But a human sitting in a cave 100,000 years ago, staring at the fire with nothing to occupy their mind, starts to wonder, what if the hunt goes wrong tomorrow? What if that sound outside is a predator? What lies beyond that mountain? Where do we go when we die? Every question religion has ever asked, every question philosophy has ever grappled with, every question science is still trying to answer, all of them started the same way. Someone was bored, and their mind began to wander. In 2013, psychologist Sandy Mann published research demonstrating that boredom significantly increases creative output. She had participants perform the most mind-numbing task she could devise, copying numbers from a phone book, and then tested their creativity immediately afterward. The bored group dramatically outperformed everyone else, because boredom forces the brain to generate its own stimulation. In the brain, when left to its own devices, is extraordinary. But there is one mighty thing ancient humans did when they were bored. Each is the one that mattered most. They talked, not about hunting, logistics, or food storage. They told stories. They gossiped. They built worlds with nothing but breathing sound. Anthropologist B. Dunbar, the same researcher who discovered that human social groups naturally capture around 150 individuals, spent years analyzing what humans talk about when they're not discussing anything important. His finding was striking. Roughly 65% of all human conversation is social gossip. Who did what? Who said what? What happened to someone you both know? This sounds trivial. Ichuasnite. Dunbar argues that language itself evolved not for practical communication, but for social bonding. Before language, primates bonded through physical grooming. But grooming is one-to-one. You can only groom one friend at a time. Language replaced grooming. Now you could bond with 3 people at once. 10. An entire group around a fire. You could tell a story about someone who wasn't even there. You could build trust with people you'd never touched. Language, and therefore human civilization, didn't emerge because we needed to coordinate hunts. It emerged because we were sitting around with nothing till we started talking about each other. Boredom invented gossip, and gossip invented society. But it is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Modern psychology has a term for what happens when you eliminate boredom completely. They call it cognitive overload. When every moment is stimulated, when silence is treated as a problem to be solved rather than an opportunity to be embraced, the brain never gets the chance to do what it was built to do in the quiet moments: process, consolidate, create. The default mode network, the part of your brain that activates when you're doing nothing, is the same network responsible for creativity, self-reflection, and empathy. It only turns on when you're bored. We spent 300,000 years learning to fill silence with something meaningful. Then we invented the smartphone. We've been frantically filling every moment of silence ever since. But every time you put the phone down and sit with nothing for a moment, every time your mind starts to wander, you let it. You're doing exactly what the person in the cave was doing. The same thing that made the beat. The same thing that made the flute. The same thing that looked up at the stars and started asking why. Boredom didn't hold ancient humans back. It is what made them human. It is the revelation that changes everything. That person sitting in the darkness 75,000 years ago, drilling a hole through a shell with nothing but patience and time. That person 40,000 years ago, carving a flute from a vulture's wing, inventing music that would echo through millennia. Those people around the fire, spinning stories that would become myths, that would become religions, that would become the foundation of civilization. They weren't escaping boredom. They were embracing it. They understood something we've forgotten, that the empty spaces are where the magic happens, that creativity isn't the enemy of boredom. It is its child, that every masterpiece, every discovery, every leap forward began the same way. With someone sitting in silence, with nothing to do, in their mind beginning to wander. The flute player didn't know they were inventing music. They were just passing time. The bead maker didn't know they were creating the first artigo. They were just doing something with their hands. The storyteller didn't know they were building civilization. They were just talking to their friends. And that's the most beautiful thing about being human. We don't create because we have to. We don't imagine because we told to. We do it because when there is nothing else to do, that's what happens. It is what we add. So the next time you find yourself with nothing to do, no screen to stare at, no distraction to reach for, don't reach for anything. Sit with it. Let your mind wander. See where it goes. You might just invent something. You might just discover something. You might just find yourself doing exactly what humans have done for 300,000 years. Turning empty space into something extraordinary, because that's what we do, that's always what we've done, and that's what we'll always do, as long as we remember that the silence isn't empty, it is full of possibility. The cave is dark, the fire is burning low, your hands are empty, now what?